Welcome to the Solimi Dreams channel. Gently turn off the lights in your room, slip on your headphones or set the volume just right and close your eyes. I hope sleep finds you peacefully, perhaps even before the story comes to an end. So now, without delay, let me softly begin tonight's story. The Passenger. Rain battered the windshield relentlessly, obscuring Alex's heart's vision as he navigated the narrow roads back home. The clock on his dashboard flashed 11:45 p.m., later than he intended. The office had been stressful, filled with endless paperwork and looming deadlines, and now fatigue gnawed at him like a relentless shadow. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel, fighting to keep his eyes open. As Alex turned onto Willow Creek Road, an isolated, wooded stretch notorious for being deserted at night, an uncomfortable sense of loneliness filled him. The trees lining the road seemed to lean inward, casting grotesque shadows illuminated fleetingly by his headlights. A thin layer of mist began rising from the asphalt, swirling like ghostly tendrils around his car. Suddenly, Alex saw something move in the corner of his eye. He braked instinctively, tires skidding slightly on the wet pavement, heart pounding in his chest. Ahead, illuminated by the dull glare of his headlights, stood a figure, a man drenched by the rain, his hand outstretched in a plea for help. Alex hesitated, every instinct screaming caution. But sympathy took hold. No one deserved to be stranded out here in a storm. He slowed down, rolling the window open just enough to communicate. The man approached the car, hunched and shaking slightly from the cold. His face was partially obscured by a hood, droplets cascading off the soaked fabric. "Hey, are you okay? Need a ride?" Alex asked cautiously. "Please," the man replied softly, almost inaudibly, his voice cracked and weary. "I just need to get home." Alex unlocked the passenger door. The stranger climbed in silently, dripping wet, flooding the car with the scent of damp earth and moss. Alex drove forward again, a tense silence settling between them. "Where do you live?" Alex asked, attempting to sound casual. The stranger didn't immediately respond, instead staring straight ahead through the windshield as though lost in thought. "Just keep driving," he finally whispered. "I'll tell you when." A chill ran down Alex's spine. Something felt off. Glancing sideways at his passenger, Alex noticed pale skin beneath the dripping hood, thin veins visible in the dim dashboard glow. Unease tightened his chest, but he continued driving, rationalizing that the man was probably just disoriented from the cold. Minutes passed slowly, and the silence became unbearable. Attempting conversation, Alex cleared his throat. "So how did you end up out here tonight?" The stranger stirred slightly but did not face Alex. Instead, he spoke softly, distantly, as though from far away. "I always find myself out here, he murmured cryptically. "It's never my choice." Alex felt goosebumps rising along his arms. "Do you mean you live nearby?" "Something like that," the stranger replied vaguely, his voice hollow and detached. As the car moved deeper into the isolated countryside, the storm intensified, thunder booming overhead, shaking the vehicle slightly. A flash of lightning briefly illuminated the stranger's face. For a fleeting second, Alex saw eyes, dark and hollow, impossibly black, reflecting no light at all. His breath caught, heart hammering painfully. He blinked, convincing himself he'd imagined it, the stress of the day playing tricks on him. "You okay?" Alex asked again nervously, trying to keep his voice steady. "Keep driving," the man repeated, ignoring the question. Almost there, Alex obeyed reluctantly, feeling trapped in a scenario rapidly spiraling out of control. The windshield wipers fought against the torrents of rain, barely clearing his line of sight. The road twisted sharply ahead, bordered by thick forest, visibility diminishing further with each passing mile. Then, abruptly, the passenger pointed forward toward a narrow dirt road, barely visible through the storm. "Turn here," he instructed quietly. Alex hesitated, but an inexplicable compulsion forced him to follow the instruction. The car jolted violently as they left pavement for mud and gravel, darkness enveloping them more completely. They traveled deeper into the dense woodland, the path narrowing steadily, branches scraping against the sides of the car like skeletal fingers. Alex's pulse quickened, dread twisting his stomach. This wasn't right. This wasn't safe. He considered turning back but felt trapped by the presence of his silent, unsettling companion. Finally, the road ended abruptly at the edge of a clearing. At its center stood a dilapidated, abandoned house. Dark windows shattered, roof partially collapsed under decades of neglect. "Stop here," the passenger whispered. Alex halted, hands trembling slightly, unable to look away from the ruin. This is your home." The stranger nodded slowly. "It used to be," he said distantly, opening the passenger door. Alex watched in horror as the man stepped out into the rain, walking slowly toward the derelict building without another word. Relief flooded Alex momentarily as the stranger vanished inside the ruin, the oppressive atmosphere slightly lifting. Quickly shifting into reverse, Alex began backing away. But suddenly the engine sputtered and died, plunging him into pitch-black darkness. Panic surged through him. He turned the ignition key desperately, but the engine refused to respond. Then, slowly, impossibly, the headlights flickered back to life on their own, shining directly at the crumbling structure. Horror gripped him as the figure of his passenger reappeared in the doorway, silhouetted by a pale, unnatural glow emanating from inside the house. Alex watched, paralyzed by terror, as the hooded figure raised a hand, slowly beckoning him. "No," Alex whispered, voice shaking, attempting to restart the car again in desperation. His attempts were futile. The vehicle refused all efforts, as though controlled by some malevolent force. Compelled by unseen power, Alex stepped reluctantly from the car into the cold rain, trembling uncontrollably, drawn involuntarily toward the house. Each step felt forced, his limbs barely obeying his commands. His heart pounded violently as he climbed the broken porch steps, drawn inexorably through the dark doorway. Inside, the air was thick with rot and decay. Shadows danced wildly along the walls despite the absence of any visible flame. At the far end of the room, illuminated by an eerie, ghostly light, stood his passenger, hood now thrown back, revealing a face twisted by anguish, skin pale, translucent like wax. Blackened, empty eyes stared into Alex's soul, silently pleading. Who are you?" Alex choked out, his voice breaking under overwhelming fear. "I am lost," the figure replied softly, mournfully. "Trapped here, forever, around Alex." Whispers filled the air, voices coming from nowhere, echoing endlessly in his ears. Horrified, Alex realized he was not alone with the specter. Dozens of shadowy figures surrounded him, their shapes shifting, faces hidden in darkness. Each one wore expressions of desperation, longing, and despair. "Stay with us," they murmured collectively, echoing softly. "Stay here." Alex fought against the invisible grip, pulling him further into darkness, his mind screaming resistance, struggling against inevitable doom. Gathering every shred of strength left within him, Alex stumbled backward, breaking the strange spell momentarily. "I can't," he shouted desperately. "Let me go!" Instantly, the atmosphere changed. The shadows surged violently, whispering voices growing into anguished screams. The ghostly figures lunged toward him, spectral hands clawing at his body, trying to hold him captive. Alex fought blindly through their grasp, breaking free, sprinting frantically through the doorway back into the rain. He slammed into the car, leaping inside, begging silently for the engine to start. Miraculously, it roared to life immediately, as though finally freed from the malevolent control. Tires spinning wildly, Alex reversed hastily, speeding down the muddy road until he reached pavement, leaving the horrifying house far behind. Shaking uncontrollably, Alex drove relentlessly, refusing to glance backward, terrified by what he might see. Eventually, he arrived home, breathless, traumatized, collapsing into his apartment, desperately locking every door behind him. Days later, curiosity and dread compelled Alex to research the location. Willow Creek Road, he discovered, had a tragic history. A family had disappeared decades before, leaving behind an abandoned home considered haunted, cursed by locals. Photos online showed the same ruined building, the very place he'd narrowly escaped. Among faded images of the family who vanished mysteriously was a man unmistakably identical to his eerie passenger. Alex realized with chilling certainty he had given a ride to a ghost, bound eternally to the place of his torment. The encounter had marked him profoundly, a lingering darkness he knew he'd never fully escape. Though Alex never again traveled Willow Creek Road, nightmares relentlessly haunted his sleep. Visions of dark, hollow eyes, whispering voices beckoning him back to that forsaken house. And every night he fought against a growing urge to return, knowing deep down, someday, he might lose that battle, for the house waited patiently, eternally, ready to claim another lost soul. I hope you've already drifted off into a peaceful sleep. If not, I truly hope the upcoming stories on my channel will help you get there. If you enjoyed this one, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd be so happy if you liked and shared this video with your friends. It means a lot and gives me the encouragement to keep creating more stories like this